Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, viewers. I'm Matthias Aufiku, news editor of the Namibian Sun newspaper. Welcome to another edition of the Evening Review Show. Before we get into the gist of tonight's discussion, let's first have a look at tomorrow's headlines. Well, we're joined in studio tonight by Ms. Edda Bonn. She's the Deputy Executive Director in the Ministry of Education, also responsible for formal education. Good evening, ma'am, and welcome.
Yes, good evening, Matthias, and thank you for having us.
No, it's indeed a pleasure.
Yes.
Well, the school calendar year is off again. We know there's normally commotion during this time of the year.
Yeah.
How is it this time around?
Yeah, this time around, I think schools start fairly early. It's 10th of January, that was Monday, where we started officially for all learners, except those learners of grade 11 for 2022, that is those who have been promoted to grade 11, the NSSC ordinary level final year learners. They have to wait until, the previous year's learners are done with the rewriting of the exams.
Yeah.
So those grade 11s would only start on the 24th.
Okay.
But otherwise, all learners that are enrolled should be in schools as of, that is Monday.
Yeah.
But we, of course, observe that there is a scramble for school space. And
How is it, this scrambling, it always takes place every year?
yeah, it's mind-boggling, and it's a very sad story because we actually plan well in advance. That is, as of the previous year, as of May, you have to start applying for school space. And then there are set cut-off dates by which, parents have applied to schools, and then schools analyze and place provisionally, depending on the passing of the learners. And then by the second half of the year, those who could not have been placed are then taken through or to the regional office, and then the regional office assists in establishing more places. Yeah. But the main challenge in this process is that parents would apply to a whole number of schools, say like more than 3, even 5 schools. And then, it could happen that all 5 schools would say yes to this learner. So then there are 5 places taken, for which would have been only 1. So 4 are, so to say, booked already. Yeah. So that causes a lot of commotion. And some regions have gone as far as when the first round of application come, they sit jointly analyzing all this to eliminate these duplicates, and thereby then, freeing the space for those who have not. Yeah. And that is actually done by the regional admission committees. Okay. So by the end of a particular academic year, all learners who have applied in good time should be placed, should know exactly by, the last day of school in the previous year. You should know where you should go next year. And that is a normal practice. Yeah. But then we have, of course, that parents apply for different jobs or seeking for better opportunities. The whole dilemma with urban influx into urban areas, urbanization, is that then schools are, approached with more that they can handle, and at a very late stage. So that's why we have now this flocking into schools and that bottleneck situation where we feel like we cannot admit all. But of course we are obliged and we are committed to provide for all learners, eligible learners. So we are hard at work, and it is a process in itself, because as of the first day of school, we count the first 15 school days. By that time, every child should have been reported at the schools where they have been placed, and school principals would know exactly where, whether it is to adverse circumstances that they could not come, or, extreme cases whether somebody has passed away, or accidents, whatever. So then we monitor the situation, we can allocate. So it's very difficult now to immediately respond. As much as we want to respond immediately, there's that span where we have to keep a space open, where perhaps not yet physically the learner has arrived, because say the family is in mourning, and they haven't returned to the school. So it's balancing all these individual needs and situations then to cater for all.
Yeah. Well, we know that our learner population hovers around 800,000 plus. So in terms of the infrastructure capacity that the ministry has, how are we faring in this regard?
Okay, in terms of the 800,000 solid, that were all in school last year, the 822,000 learners of last year's 15 school day statistics, they have all space. So those spaces are definitely there. But then, of course, what we also observe is that there is a birth rate of around 4%. Or sometimes it varies, and that, of course, is that increase where we have to cater for. We have expanded schools, we have built new schools, so each regional director would be exactly able to say where they are, and then that would provide for it. But then, as I said before, it's that movement that also disturbs perhaps the planning, so that you would find there are rural schools that even become deserted and cannot be, sustained anymore in terms of smaller learner numbers. And school principals are yet there, the same school principal as one who manages a school of over 1,000 learners, And of course, that is an efficiency question to the ministry. So there's a need for us also to then consolidate those underpopulated schools. And that comes itself again with challenges, moving staff and, So that is the bigger picture, so to say.
Okay. We also know the issue of free education has been a topic of late. Of course, your ministry issued a statement last week, but parents still believe that this free education mantra that the government is singing, it's not tangible on the ground.
What we need to understand is that education is a basic human right, and of course also a child's right, the right to education, and it's also provided for in our constitution. So we are obliged to provide education, and the main reason why we introduced the concept of education should be free or fee-free education is that we do not want the socioeconomic circumstances holding you back from education. That is the main reason. So we have to have open doors for all, no matter whether you can pay or not pay. Of course, then, the payment of a minimal fee, whether it's your admission fee, or some people have called it the security fee. I heard as of late, parents are asked to pay down a security fee to secure your space, for example. We had all sorts of names for these, which are, in terms of our policy, they are illegal, because they should not, the non-payment of that fee leading to non-admission, that is illegal. You understand? So there should be a negotiation. For parents who cannot afford that amount, they need to provide somehow proof of that they are, there is no income or whatever, and then we have to accommodate them. So all parents or guardians who cannot afford to pay and who are shown away, they must report to the regional director. And the regional director will then take action in order to still secure space for these learners. And then those who can afford should feel free to do so, because in fact, what we are paying for is the absolute basic minimum. That is the teacher salaries and the basic materials and resources, the stationery, the cleaning materials, and so on. But even these are limited. The school grants that we provide that should make up for the loss of school income, because we have eliminated the compulsory contribution. It's a voluntary contribution to the school development fund. But what the government currently can give per annum per child in primary school is a $200, and in secondary school is a $300, and that comes to a total of 152 million, which is a very small number, but that's all the ministry currently can afford.
So what is the ideal amount in this regard?
Yeah, the ideal amount, if you think of...
If resources were in abundance.
In abundance, you know, one textbook at secondary might cost up to $300. And a learner would have to have 6 textbooks for their 6 subjects. So that gives you already an indication. The 300 we are currently giving is a drop in the ocean. Is only a 6th, if not a 10th, of what is actually required per learner per annum. So we need to really pool resources and make the best, and especially utilize what we have to its fullest. So if we now have only for the learner that has 6 subjects, and perhaps in terms of an annual, stationary need would need 18 exercise books, perhaps we should at least have 6 for the start now. And once these are full, then, we have to replenish. And one exercise book is $4. That should be possible and affordable.
Yeah, I know you spoke about the concept of the fee-free concept at schools, the issue that schools are still charging, say, admission fees and so on. But schools, especially in terms of resources and material, cleaning materials, stationery, they normally would send out a list to parents that say, when the school year starts, you should bring this. Is there a cap from the ministry to say that no school should request material or resources beyond this cap?
Yeah, what the ministry says, we provide, and that will take us to some time, throughout the year. For example, we have, because we are aware of the low contribution from government to the school development with the school grant, school development fund, we have also allocated material and supplies for the stationery, another 51.336 million to per capita to the regions. So the regions are obliged to provide the stationery, at least for the start of the year. And this money was decentralized and sent to regions already last year. So by now, at least for the start, we should be fine. But then we are also monitoring, and we are seeing whether it is now, challenges that experience at the regional office, or what we also see is that school principals do have, let me not say school principals, but the school community as such is responsible for the school through the school board, responsible for the school financial status. And what we have observed is that in these accounts, because we are monitoring school accounts, there might be, in a rural school, still 600,000 as they have received it at the beginning of last year as part of, closing of the previous budget year. They have received these funds and they have not utilized them at all. So we are monitoring these situations and encouraging to utilize the funds to enrich teaching and learning, procure the necessary resources, stationery and materials, photocopy paper, and so on.
Of course, the conversation is seemingly very much on the public schools, but the private sector, we seem to be turning a blind eye to that, although, of course, the ministry is also responsible to ensure that that sector also operates optimally. So in that regard, how are they faring in that regard?
The private schools have suffered, I mean, in the extent that many parents might have lost their jobs due to COVID, especially those who were benefiting from the hospitality and tourism sector. There were, a lot of retrenchments. And then I'm aware of some parents and learners who have lost school space because they simply could not afford the schools. And then, we must find then a space which was not available beforehand in the public schools for these learners. And that has proven a challenge. Yeah.
So, how do we then, maybe you can just continue.
Yeah, in terms of the private schools, what they charge and how they manage their affairs, it is up to them. And what they usually do is they sign a contract where a parent is committing to contribute consistently. And some private schools have mechanisms how to apply for, how shall I say, pardoning or exemption from this contribution. But there are also those who are rigorous and say, if you have not paid, your child is out. And in terms of the rights to education, that is, of course, a rights violation. And we still have to come to, a roundtable discussion with all private schools in order to address that situation, that it's actually unlawful. As much as we know, private schools are run as businesses, and that is the problem. If you do not pay your internet services, where the provider is the business, then you'll be cut off that service. And that is how private schools operate. And we have to find a way, because the cutoff should not be in the middle of an academic year where the child then does not have a report. That is a very unfortunate situation, and we'll have to find a middle ground there.
What do you make of assertions that there is a widening gap in terms of quality between the public and private education sectors?
Yeah, it depends on where you zoom in, at which private schools. There are also those private schools that struggle to perform, but we want to have good performing schools across. And exactly for that purpose, years ago, we established the National Standards and Performance Indicators, school self-evaluation, school peer evaluation, but also regional evaluation and national evaluation. Now, due to a lack of resources, this national external school evaluation has come to a halt, but every school principal is aware of the 111 indicators that they should perform on, and it is these national standards and performance indicators take a school in its totality in 7 key areas. So if everyone in the system does their job to, the requirements as per the standards, then we should have equal quality on the ground. But of course, it's all an issue of control. And I think that's where we fall behind. We have to improve on our control mechanisms.
But I know there were also talks some time back that maybe the ministry should look at perhaps regulating some of these fees at private schools and so on. Do you think that's feasible?
No, I don't think so, because private schools are run by communities, and it's in the mandate of these communities. I mean, the people who establish that, they must also make ends meet. And at times they have to pay the salaries of these teachers. So if they don't generate income, then they can't pay the salaries, so they can't provide the service. So it is in the minority, or there are only some private schools that have established memoranda of agreement with the ministry, through which then the ministry contributes to the salaries or to the upkeep of the infrastructure, the utilities, or the material resources. So there are some private schools that fall in that category.
But you have other sectors, perhaps say engineering, the legal sector, even auditors are regulated to say, when you do this, you can't charge more than even architects. Why is it so different in the education sector?
Well, that is an option, something to look at. We probably can do that. But so far, it has not been done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I know before we came on set, we talked briefly about the issue of narrowing the gap between urban and rural schools. Are we winning in that regard?
You see, it all comes with the school management and the teaching force, as well as the community participation. Because we have done in the ministry, together with UNICEF, a very interesting study called the Positive Deviance study. And that is that we continue to observe that they are urban schools, yes, of course, well-resourced, they perform well. Then you have urban schools, they are well-resourced, but they don't perform well. And then you have rural schools, well-resourced, performing well, rural schools or not performing well, and the same rural schools not well-resourced, but performing exceptionally well. And then we zoomed into these schools. What makes these schools perform? And what has this study, which has been internationally recognized also, this study revealed that it's the charismatic, dedicated, focused leadership of the school. And an active participating community. And I'm talking of that rural community, that they are jointly able to create an atmosphere at the school, which is like, I want to be there. Teachers, learners, school principal, heads of departments, and community together create that atmosphere at the school. And even though the resources are minimal, they say, they reinforce that attitude, positive attitude and approach that no matter what our circumstances are, we can thrive, we can do the best. And that is what we have observed. And we must embrace such good practices and try to emulate them, stimulate the system through, awarding good performance, recognizing good patterns. We have the world's largest lesson teachers awards that we are doing. So these are mechanisms where we want to recognize good performance in terms of then stimulating, the eagerness to live up to the standard.
Yeah. Because I know a few years back there was the issue of teachers being underqualified and so on was a hot topic. How's the situation now?
Yeah, it has turned tables. We have currently an oversupply of qualified teachers. And we are also, due to the economic constraints that we are in this economic downturn that we are observing already, gradually since 2016, where we struggle to fund all our needs, is that now we have a surplus of qualified teachers that are currently unemployed. But if you look at, and it's how do you make it work? It needs that joint effort, whether it's private partnerships, because there is still a gap in education that we have to provide for. If we talk of quality education outcomes, what are the inputs? And the inputs start not just in grade 1, they actually start in pre-primary, but not only in pre-primary. Pre-primary relies on ECD caregiving, and ECD relies again on the infant you receive, and the infant comes from a childbearing mother who might have, suffered adverse circumstances, being malnourished, not the right. What I'm heading to is having all inputs into the first 1,000 days of a child's life, and they count from inception until 2 years. So that is crucial. So there are other inputs into education where we have to improve, and that is to get the basics right. That is at an early stage, have ECD right and pre-primary, and that's the gap I'm talking about. So if we would be able to address that gap through a miracle funding process, then we can accommodate all these it's a majority, junior primary teachers that are currently unemployed and qualified. So in the ECD and pre-primary provision, there's still that gap that we could fulfill, because one cohort of grade 1s reach into the 80,000s, whereas the pre-primaries that we have currently in public schools are only just over 50,000. So we will see now after the 15th school day statistics. So you see the birth rate does not decline over years. So there's an equal number of pre-primaries who are not in pre-primary grade.
Yeah.
And we do accept, because we are aware of that we cannot provide for every eligible pre-primary child a space, we do accept them into schools without the pre-primary year.
Yeah.
You understand? So there are children who come with that backlog, and then we have an intensive program for them to get them school ready, the school readiness program. And then, we continue. But that's also a reason why we have a high repetition rate at grade 1. But also in every time we transition into a different phase, we have a high repetition rate. And repetition is a challenge to efficiency.
Yeah.
So if we could eliminate efficiency, we could, have eliminate repetition, Eliminate repetition, we can improve on efficiency. That means we can have more returns on the dollar invested.
Yeah. Okay. And the other issue is the issue of the new system that we're using. Of course, there was an issue with the exit grade now. The universities also had an issue. How far has that conversation gone between the ministry and the
tertiary institutions?
institutions?
Yeah. What we need to recognize is, in the past, we had a mix of ordinary level and higher level in a particular grade. And at the beginning of a year, you would start with a large number of higher level learners, plow in a lot of resources, but as they could not, pick up the standard, they would change to ordinary level. Yeah. So it's also a bit of a waste of resources on the one side. On the other side, these at the end ordinary level learners wasted much time in trying to grasp those concepts, time they could have utilized to reinforce the ordinary. You understand? Yeah. So the system change is actually to the advantage of the child, that they can focus on ordinary level, do very well at ordinary level in their best 3 subjects, scoring C or better. They can then continue with AS level. Yeah. And this advanced subsidiary level would allow them into, depending on the choice of field of studies and the subjects they have, because that has to be sorted out with career guidance. They would have then admission into degree programs. Yeah. Whereas, the ordinary level, school leaving with a good pass, would give you entry into other programs, such as certificates or diploma or technical, vocational, and so on. Now, in Namibia, we still have to strengthen that sector of the technical vocational training provision. And, also the eagerness of the school leavers to pursue these careers. Everybody believes the success lies in, the academic stream. So those are the challenges. But in the conversation is ongoing with that admission requirements and transition.
What are their biggest concerns in terms of from tertiary institution? What are the biggest
tertiary
concerns? Yes.
The point is that this change of our curriculum, where it's still 12 years that learners go to school, ending off with their ordinary, because the pre-primary is now included. Count the pre-primary, by the time they're at NSSC ordinary level, they grade 11, they actually have been 12 years at school. But then the new grade 12 is actually a 13th year at school doing the AS level. And the aim of that was to prepare them better for university. You understand? To the academics, strengthening the academic stream for that transition into degree programs. Because degree programs in, the early years, there used to be 3-year programs until, the universities, these and those, depending on your performance, they become 4-year programs. So it's speaking to that dilemma of quality. And therefore, that's why the universities also say for certain courses, we only accept this at AS level. And that is that academic, excellence in order to take on a degree program. But it doesn't mean that you as an ordinary level are excluded forever of it, because you can still, find other pathways to articulate at the end to a degree program. That means, catching up with the AS level, improve your ordinary level, catch up, do the AS level, and then, articulate those programs.
Okay. Well, let's just come to the last topic, topic for tonight's discussion, the issue of the exam, the leakage last year.
Yeah.
What is the latest? I know exams are going to start. What
The
is the latest
exam
in that
started.
regard? And in terms of remedial actions going forward to avoid a similar
incident, yes. Of course, any system gets audited, and the risk assessment is there, and we will employ and have employed already remedial actions to improve on wherever we have observed the risk has become evident, and to remedy the situation. Those remedial actions are in full swing to ensure that the system becomes more watertight. And yes, the exams have started for the full-time NSSC ordinary of last year. That is the new curriculum. They are busy writing already since Monday. And as I said earlier, right at the beginning of the program, they will finish by the end of the week of the 21st. On the 21st of January, the last subject would be written by them, and then,
So, but in terms of registration to study further on, have you had the conversation with tertiary institutions, perhaps, to say, look, we still need time to mark and so on? Can you please?
The results will be released the same time frame. We are anticipating the same time frame as we had it in the beginning of 2021. And that was school leavers were used to that also, as well as our local institutions. That means mid of February, and there has been dialogue through the executive director of the Ministry of Higher Education with the institutions, and we will issue a to whom it may concern letter to verify and officially state that this is the practice. Within the COVID measures, we changed the annual calendar with the holiday in June, July. Remember, with the winter holiday that we introduced last year, we will also have this year. But we also had it basically with the school closure in 2020, leading to the results release of 2020 only in 21. Mid-February will follow, and the same of 2021, we will now in 2022, mid-February. So from that angle, we are basically doing nothing different from last year. The only difference comes in with the AS level, but they will also be released at the same time. And those who are going to articulate or move out of the country, for these letters will be available.
Okay. Ms. Bonn, thank you very much for your time this evening. We really appreciate your insight.
Yes, any questions, please feel free to contact us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good.
The space between having a dream and making it a reality is massive. And when your dream is to build a quality network for Africa, that space gets even bigger. Paratus' dream for a Pan-African network began years ago. Starting with a single PC using dial-up internet, it eventually grew to become ITN, a Windhoek-based network company that laid the foundations of what Paratus is today.
Starting a network company wasn't easy, but we knew if we persevered, we'd be able to achieve our dreams. During the early stages and still today, any new customer we get is an accomplishment. Currently, we have physical presence in 6 African countries and provide our services to 28 countries in total. We are not bound by limits.
In 2014, Paratus was born, and the vision of creating an all-African network was becoming a reality. Paratus was highly dependent on third-party infrastructure. That was fine at first, but they soon realized that such dependency would only limit their growth. Their goal was to provide Africa with tomorrow's technology today, not tomorrow. With that goal in mind, they risked it all. Investing in various network and radio access technologies, they established their own independent infrastructure, opening a world of limitless opportunities. One of these opportunities was the Trans-Kalahari Fiber Project, a fiber network line that stretched across Namibia, providing connectivity from Swakopmund in the west to the Botswana border in the east. But the word limit doesn't exist in Paratus's vocabulary, so they extended the line even further, passing it through Botswana to Zambia and South Africa. 4 countries now enjoyed the same quality, high-speed connectivity. Then they threw out the rulebook and made history by extending the line up to Tanzania and later Mozambique. Paratus became the first ever network operator to connect Africa's east and west coast twice. Whoever said impossible is nothing was right.
Paratus isn't Namibia's oldest or biggest network, and our focus isn't on size. Our focus is on real value and real service for our customers. Developing improved network technologies puts us ahead of the competition, but it's our unparalleled quality client service that keeps us in front. Joining the Paratus network means joining a true Pan-African family. We have almost 20 years experience in class-leading technological advancements and deployments. Building a quality network in Africa is just the beginning. The best is yet to come.
Unlock Kaching with Katiti. For only 3,699 Namibian dollars once off, you can make extra Kaching with the Paratus Katiti touch screen device. And commission on reselling of electricity, water, DSTV subscriptions, and recharge vouchers from the palm of your hand. You can't afford not to unlimit your business potential with Katiti. Get your Katiti device today and go further with Paratus. Visit na.paratus.africa for more information.